now we're going to discuss the idea of neurons working together. Remember, there's over 100 billion neurons in your brain alone. Then you have all the other neurons in your spinal cord and your peripheral nervous system. So we want to understand how they work together, or in other words, neural integration. So integration is how neurons work in a network, or how they work together. So for example, here we have neurons working together in what we call a reflex arc. So think about what a reflex is, right? If you touch something hot, you instinctively pull your hand away. That's a reflex. You see a car slam on its brakes in front of you. You slam on your brakes immediately. That's a reflex. So we're going to see how this works. All right, so first, in order to initiate a reflex, you have to have some sort of stimulus, right? Here, for instance, is a pin pricking into the skin, which hopefully should cause your finger or body part to move away. Or the stimulus could have been the car slamming on its brakes or touching the hot pot. Now you have to have a receptor. A receptor will respond or receive the stimulus. So in this case, for instance, it's the skin. Now that receptor stimulates the sensory neuron, here in blue. Remember, the sensory neuron is the one that responds to a sense of some sort. So in this case, the pinprick. Remember, this would be the sensory input. After the sensory neuron is stimulated, it will activate the interneuron here, which is in the integration center. So oftentimes, remember, we say the integration center is in the brain where you're thinking about it. Well, in a simple reflex, you actually don't even have to use the brain. You don't have to think about doing a reflex. So the integration center is actually in the spinal cord. Remember, the integration center can be in the central nervous system, which is the brain or the spinal cord. So here you have in green the interneuron. So the interneuron is going to then relay the message to the motor neuron. Remember, the motor neuron, shown here in red, is the one that's actually going to go and innervate the muscle to do the response. So remember, the interneuron in the integration center will communicate between the sensory input from the sensory neuron and the motor output to the motor neuron. And then the last step is the actual motor response. So the motor neuron will innervate or excite the effector, which in this case is a muscle, and that muscle will, for instance, cause your finger to move away from the pinprick, right? Or in the example of seeing the car brake in front of you and you slamming on your brakes, the effector would be, for instance, the muscles in your quads and your hamstrings and your legs to cause your foot to step on the brake. So here you have that simple reflex arc. So again, a stimulus causes the reflex arc to take place. A receptor responds or receives the stimulus. It sends that information to the sensory neuron, shown here in blue. So this is the sensory input. Then it goes to the interneuron in the integration center, and then it goes out to the motor neuron, which innervates the effector. So this here in red, the motor neuron and the effector is the motor output. And again, this happens extremely fast. Remember how quickly the neuron can send these action potential. So this will happen in a split second. Next, let's talk about how neurons work together in circuits. So I'm going to give you two examples of circuits. Here we have a circuit that is called divergence. So diverge means to go out or to spread out. So in this particular case, you have one neuron here, and it receives an input, and then it's going to send the information out. And notice it sends the information out to two neurons. And those neurons send it out to two more neurons, and so on. So notice the information is going out and spreading across many neurons. So there's many outputs. So this is a divergent circuit. So it's one to many. This would be, for instance, like your head boss giving an order, and then that boss gives the order to the people below him. And then those are like the managers who then give the order to the people below them and below them. And so the order gets spread out to all the individual employees. The opposite type of circuit is called convergent. Converge means to come together. So diverge means to spread out. Converge means to come together. It's kind of like merging onto a freeway. So here you have one neuron, and then notice there's three different neurons sending the input to that one neuron. And that one neuron, after it receives all of those inputs, is going to give the output. So notice all three of these neurons are converging their input onto this one neuron. This would be, for example, if you have your boss who's trying to make a decision, and he or she is going to ask 3 different employees what their opinion is. And then based on these 3 employees, that one boss will make its decision in the output. So again, this is a converging circuit.